Hello, everybody. How's it going? We are just waiting. Oh, hello. How's it going?
It's going really well. I'm so sorry I'm late.
Oh, not a worry in the world. We're just getting started now. But if all the speakers can turn on their mic and cameras, I'm going to, yeah, you should have an invite. Wonderful. Great. So I'm going to get out of here very shortly, but my name is Cameron Dennis. I'm the founder of the Acceleration Foundation. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that starts accredited blockchain courses at universities. We host these weekly meetups. We start research projects. We have about 120 builders ready to build stuff in this space, and we're just really looking for companies to connect with and projects to do. So that being said, we do run these meetups every single week, and this week we have Kristie Huang from she256, and I'm actually going to pass it on to you to introduce our wonderful speakers. But see you guys after.
Yeah.
I'm muted for sure. Thanks, Cameron. So hi, Coley. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so as you know, this event will be about mass adoption. We have our speakers here, and I'm going to introduce them real quick before we jump into the questions for the rest of this panel. At the end of our 45 minutes here, you'll have a chance to drop questions in Q&A, and we can ask Q&A questions from the audience too. But without further ado, let me introduce our wonderful speakers. First, we have Vanessa. So Vanessa leads strategic partnerships, alliances, and channels at ConsenSys. Her focus is on financial services, global trade, and enterprise blockchain. She's also the president of the Blockchain Social Impact Coalition. Prior to joining ConsenSys, she was an executive in corporate strategy and M&A. Coley is the CEO of BinanceUS, a digital asset marketplace built for easy and secure access to buy, trade, and stake digital assets in America. Most recently, Coley was head of XRP institutional liquidity at Ripple and also co-head of Women. And before entering the digital asset industry, Coley served as a foreign exchange and treasury management advisor to startups at Silicon Valley Bank, and also spent time at Morgan Stanley on the trading floors. Yeah, so Vanessa, Coley, so you both come from more traditional finance backgrounds. So I'm curious, now you kind of both work in blockchain. What inspired you to make your career transition to blockchain? What excites you about the current state of the technology?
Vanessa, you want to start us off?
Sure. So after I stopped working for the New York Stock Exchange, I moved back to New York, and I wanted to take a little break to think about what I wanted to do after. That's where I discovered Bitcoin and was at the Bitcoin exchange downtown, wondering what the hell was going on at the time. It was in 2014. And I thought it was intriguing, but I didn't realize how much potential it had at the time. So I was involved without sort of as a side habit. And then I took a job at PwC, and someone introduced me to Joe Lubin. And when I had my first conversation with him, I think that's where it all clicked. On the potential of the technology and what it could do. And so I joined ConsenSys pretty early on as it started its journey. And I've been excited since then. So, and seeing it grow and how much more mature it is now, it's really exciting.
Coley, would love to hear about.
Yeah, I kind of came into this entire realm of just trying to survive. There were aspects of life that were expensive, and there were ways that I knew I could earn money and use money and be able to grow it, and threw myself into those environments to learn from those people that did it well, and then was able to kind of take those skills and translate them down so that more people could access things that could alleviate their life's burdens. So a lot of the excitement that I found with crypto was mostly around the ability to access money outside of banking hours. The FX was kind of the only thing that traded when the banks were shut down, and that was magic to me. It was like, oh, most of these equity folks shut down, they leave at 5 o'clock, they go home. Most of the corporate treasury folks, they're shut down, 5 o'clock, they go home, they can't really do anything more. But the FX crew could stay up all night and trade around the clock, around the world, and be relevant in multiple markets and have global conversations. And that was the exciting part to me. And so when crypto unlocks the ability to do this 24/7 and keep one asset that is going to be valued around the world, that's really where I said, oh, this is everything I dream of. Let me pursue this even more. If it can be a better, faster version of the currency and the value that we give to life, what can I do to be responsible for how it gets into the hands of people, how people can access it, and how we can make it easier for more people? Because I certainly, major kudos to Kristie, yourself, Vanessa, and every person out there that's trying to reach into spaces that don't seem welcoming. But for those of us that have done it, it's our duty and our kind of responsibility to make sure that more people can access paths that took us those extra steps of grit to get through.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to follow up there. So when you first, so we heard about like your interest in crypto, but how did you first start like learning about crypto? Like what were kind of the first steps you took to get?
Yeah, it was 2013. One of my clients, who was a super smart hedge fund manager, he was based in New York while I was working in Hong Kong. So I get to talk to him at his like 4 a.m. in the morning. And a lot of that kind of led to him having endless amounts of times on the internet. And I think that's where he stumbled upon it. But he really, I think he had to buy Bitcoin because he lost in a fantasy football. Oh. And so it was like something like, oh yeah, you lost, man. You got to go buy this weird thing called Bitcoin. Like, oh, shucks. And it had gone up to, I think at that time it went up to $500 and he sold it and bought his mom a house. And he was just like, I can't believe it. Like it actually went up. This thing is crazy. I got out of it. I'm not involved in it, blah, blah, blah. And that was the first time I'd heard about it. And, but at the same time in Hong Kong, there was a beginning of a lot of the foundations of crypto marketplaces that were beginning out of kind of those markets. And so I began to learn from others in that space, but I still was pretty focused on being the best in foreign exchange at that time and didn't give enough space to learning about it that I really should have. And a lot of that is because if I have to learn something, I have to do it. I am a kinetic learner. So I can't just read a podcast and become an expert. I can't just read a book and feel like I know everything and am able to make those decisions. I kind of have to throw myself into it. So in 2016, when I kind of looked up from banking and said, do I want to continue on this path? Fixed income was getting turned into electronic trading faster and faster. What did I want to do and how did I want to get involved in this? I kind of had to throw myself into San Francisco to learn how tech evolved. And even there, I was in a banking role at Silicon Valley Bank, and I was sitting on the sidelines watching all this excitement in San Francisco happen. And I was like, I just can't be, I'm terrible at being a sideline expert of things. So had looked up and read into Ripple and XRP and kind of said, you've got to hire me. I know everything about these markets that you're going to be impacting, and I want to be there to define it. And then in kind of the realm of BinanceUS, it was like, I still didn't have a decent platform that I felt had my best interests at heart. And so I had to build it. And so, being able to deliver the best technology to Americans like myself that didn't want to have to sacrifice certain things in order to access these better markets, be able to drive down the costs of accessing crypto so it didn't just become an activity for the wealthy.
Right.
Something that
I'm
really believe
sorry.
in.
Yeah. That's really, really awesome. I'm also curious about so Vanessa, you said you both kind of came from like more traditional banking, but so like the same question for you, Vanessa, where like, how did you first start learning about crypto, and what was that kind of first learning process like for you?
Yeah, so I was attending a lot of meetups. The meetup scene in New York was very active in tech. It was just starting. And then I think one of the meetups mentioned the Bitcoin exchange. And I'm like, oh, I have to learn about this. So I go a few times. There's a lot of activity there. There's a lot of trading going on live. There was like trading, like almost like trading in a pit, like what, was at the beginning of the derivatives market. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. So I opened a wallet, I bought some Bitcoin, and then I went to a few conferences, and there was Potcoin and Spacecoin to buy something when we're all in space. So I was like, well, this is maybe a little far reach for me. And I had opportunities to work for exchanges, and I had just come out of almost 10 years at an exchange, and I was like, this is the same thing, but with another asset. So I I sort of let it go, and then it came back.
Vanessa, I need to hear what it's like to be 10 years into an exchange.
For sure. Yeah, actually, I'd love to hear about what you do in your kind of day-to-day. Like in 5 really quick sentences, could you tell us an audience like what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Wake up in the morning feeling like Pete. No, I begin and end my day thinking about crypto and our users. My Telegram and my DMs are, well, my Telegram's hopefully not open to too many people, but my Twitter is available for people. So I respond to customers at all hours of the night to learn from them, to help them in their process of learning about crypto, learning about BinanceUS, how we can help them through the process, and then work with an awesome team that we're spread out across 19 states right now. So interact with them, whether it's our compliance team that's refining our process, or our risk or legal team. We're working on getting more licenses. We now operate in 40 states, but we're aiming to get into all 50. Whether it's my finance team, my marketing team trying to run a Halloween promotion coming up. What can we do to better the experience, make it more palatable, more approachable? Because crypto just came off so intimidating and had this kind of shape that you had to fit through in order to become a part of the society of crypto Twitter. And the secret of it all is no one needs to have that. It's super accessible by anybody. That's the best part about crypto. So it's the ultimate inclusive society out there is digital assets. So that's really what we just stay true to and want to serve our users. That's my day. Doesn't stop.
Recently, ConsenSys separated their investment portfolio from what we call our software company. And I focus on that side of the business where I lead the partnerships, alliances, and channels. As a software company, in order to drive adoption, which is the theme of our discussion today, we rely on our partners, right? We work with partners, we work with resellers, we work with technology partners who want to build on our stack, and we work with industry groups in order to a little bit like for the exchange, better the experience for people who want to use the technology, use it in a private instance or also in public markets. We're very involved at the convergence of the two and working mainly with large enterprises to drive that adoption.
For sure. Yeah, that actually brings me to my next question, which was like quantitatively for Coley and for Vanessa, where in the world are you seeing the most adoption among your user base, among your clientele and partners? Like what does our current user base and users look like right now?
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that the user base is still predominantly male. And so there's a significant portion of, call it 20 to 34 is the kind of age range where we're seeing the activity of crypto and the importance of crypto make a meaningful step in people's lives. So that's kind of the initial group right now that's involved, and that's amazing. And we live to serve those users, but we're definitely here to make sure that it is approachable and available for a lot more folks, whether that's providing them careers, whether that's providing them easy on-ramps into crypto, whether that's providing them education so that they can have more decisive opinions on different aspects of fintech. So I do think that there's a momentum that we started in 2020 that can continue of increasing kind of more women into the space. I think there was a 42% increase of women traders that started in Q1. And when you think about it, like why and how is that happening if crypto's been around for 10 years? Mm-hmm. And a lot of it comes down to people seeing other people do it. And let's kind of shatter that expectation that the only way to lead in an industry is look like something. The only way to have autonomy on your own, values is to follow a certain path. We're here to break all of that through. So it's just beginning.
Actually, I had a couple of questions there about like our user base, inclusivity in crypto and blockchain, but I'd love to get there after we get to some of the like adoption type of questions. So we'll come back to this. But yeah, so Vanessa, like what, like at ConsenSys, like what do most of the partners, or like, I guess like what kind of adoption trends are you seeing most in terms of what your users are using?
So
partners are doing?
It really depends on the type of product. So we have different types of product like MetaMask, Infura, who are really, for the crypto natives or, anything related to trading and wallets. And then we have the enterprise world. So I would say we put out a comment from our user base for Infura, and interestingly, the geographies that we've seen are the US, India, Nigeria, Philippines, where there's a lot of traction. It's very different on the enterprise side, where I would say most of the enterprises testing and using the technology are really focused in Asia, Europe, and the US. And so I think you need to think of adoption as like, who is your audience? Who do you, if it's the retail investor, if it's someone sending remittances across the globe, or if it's just an enterprise who wants to create a new and better and faster system for their operations.
Totally. So kind of building on top of that, do you see DeFi, which is like, do you see that as something that's augmenting or replacing traditional finance? And kind of on top of that, do you think like DeFi is something that will disrupt the current systems that we have now, or do you see it as something that will end up conforming and building on top of current regulations? Vanessa or Coley?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. So I think, DeFi is definitely driving adoption, and large enterprises are paying attention, even though, they're not ready for it yet. I think it's the opportunity to drive innovation. I don't think the end goal is to actually drive like adoption. I think it's right now increasing the capacity and the innovation, as I said before, in the space. And I think it's a focal point for us. And I think that will, in 2 years, have a wider audience. But right now it's pretty narrow, I would say, in terms of who can actually, make money off DeFi. And you do need to be well-versed, I would say. So I don't see it right now as, anyone in Nigeria or the Philippines being able to have an easy sort of experience to use DeFi. I think that's the major gap that I see.
For sure. Yeah. What do you think, Coley, since you run more like a crypto-oriented?
Yeah. I'm like so excited when we see digital assets go through kind of a molting of their original snakeskin that they had. And we've seen that in different forms of where the utilities kind of come into place. And so the most recent one of where yield farming and DeFi can be this unit of providing us an additional reward on top of the protocol and being able to govern it through protocol, it to me is like a fascinating breakthrough that we've been able to get. And I'm super excited. I kind of mentioned this in the chat, like it's not in its final form yet at all. And I think that's what we were witnessing, was kind of these bursts of experimentation, which have its fatal flaws, as we've seen. But that experimentation was building things that can be very critical to us changing financial products going forward. So for us, being able to give people access into these governance tokens that we're going to be kind of ruling and making calls on top of where DeFi was headed, where it was kind of going to be supported or encouraged and influenced, was really what we wanted to be able to give access to for people to do. Because the best part about DeFi was that it was fully decentralized, which makes the user experience not reliable or difficult to understand, or what feels to be like a very small niche group of in the know people that are stalking Etherscan with, the scripts that they've written already to peel off the hottest new coins that get added to these things that no one's ever heard of. And it became kind of a race of getting in early, just because you could be kind of the last one out, or the first one out as well. It wasn't the right mechanism to be trying to make this have broader adoption. But the critical steps of figuring out a way to have yields or be able to provide liquidity through a protocol, automating market making is an insane development that we've seen in the last 6 months. And so that to me was just like breaking through that crypto's not done with its evolution. And there's going to be something beyond DeFi. We've seen the hot takes of NFTs resurge with people trying to find kind of what is going to be the next use case or main adoption point that makes sense. I was talking with a bunch of students and he goes, okay, well, which coin is going to be used by everyone around the world? And I was like, oh, that's the best part. Like, I don't think there is going to be just one that's going to be used by everyone around the world, but what is accessible to everyone around the world? That's what we're being able to build out. What is applicable to the needs of people around the world? What are the benefits that they receive on top of it? That's really what we're able to see. And I think that's where DeFi showed us a breakthrough point of innovation still taking place.
Absolutely. Actually, Vanessa, I wanted to follow up on what you said, because you mentioned that we're like currently in the state that DeFi is right now. We're not quite in a position to completely replace traditional finance. But where do you see DeFi poised to go? Maybe like 20 years in the future, do you see it as something that's going to be augmenting or replacing traditional finance? I think like Coley was mentioning, she kind of has these big visions for DeFi and accessibility for money around the world.
So I think there's the understanding from a lot of institutions that a lot of our traditional financial assets are going to be tokenized. So I think it's going to embrace DeFi. I don't think DeFi is going to replace the traditional companies. Like, we also have to be realistic about the size of DeFi and the size of the asset class that we're talking about. A few $100 billion is nothing when this one company has several trillions under management. So we need to be sort of realistic to understand what will be the place of this. I'm not saying it's not coming. I'm saying it's going to take time. And I think when people see how this can be applied to traditional, market infrastructure, which is only there because there was no other technology available to create, instant trading, to manage the risk in the way it's managed right now, and based on legacy regulation that are also aligned with the capabilities that what the technology was offering at the time, right? So right now we have a whole new capability that will need to be adopted by these companies. And then we'll see also a sweep of the regulation, some of which will become obsolete because it was there to solve a problem and a risk that won't exist anymore because of DeFi. So I think it's a little bit like the robo-advisors movement, right? Everyone was like, oh, who is going to give money to a robo-advisor? And then we see that large wealth management firms are buying the robo-advisors or creating the same capabilities. So I think we'll see the same thing in the DeFi and finance world.
For sure. Yeah. So I think also to follow up on that, like, what do you think is the biggest challenge right now, domestically and internationally, in blockchain and crypto adoption? Do you think it's regulatory? Do you think it's like last mile, educational, or like purely a tech challenge? Like, what do you feel like it is?
We're still fighting a relationship with money. At the end of the day, it's still a taboo conversation topic that has made its way more so, especially with crypto being an entire industry, an additional industry, I'd say, that's dedicated to the discussion of money. But for centuries, we only had finance as a sector that would be a daily conversation about money, where it was moving, how it was moving, how it was growing. And everyone else that had another industry aspect didn't necessarily have those conversations as regularly. So that's really something that we're trying to tackle that, and it's someone mentioned it, Philippe mentioned it here, of generational change. There's a lot of shifts that are taking place that now more than ever, we have the tools to communicate better. We have the tools to run businesses virtually. We have the tools to interact with people virtually. We lean so much more on the internet than ever before. Why can't we have our money be supported through it, by it, and accessible from it? So that's really the issue that I'm starting with, is just the discussion around money, how you hold it, how you own it, how to feel comfortable taking control.
Yeah.
And then from there we can provide all the easy benefits of how easy it is through crypto.
I agree with the generational change. I think it's pretty exciting that everyone is comfortable on the digital and understands that you don't need a physical, piece of paper to have money or some gold in your vault or under your mattress. And I think that that we're not considering enough that generational change. So I think that's why it will take time. I think there's definitely a user experience issue at the stage to drive adoption, and just for people to understand what it is and make it easy for them, right? People don't need to know everything about what's behind blockchain. If they can use it as a mean of transfer of value and it works and it's safe, and we go through the loops of understanding the issues like we've seen in DeFi, where some things just explode on the side, I think we'll be in a good place. I think the other challenge is the regulation and the cost of regulation of setting up entities that serve individual retail customers. Of course, the regulator wants to protect, anyone for investing. So, accredited investor regulation is there for a reason, and a valuable reason. I think we need also a lot more education from a financial services side, and empowerment of people, understanding the ins and outs of how they need to manage their money.
Yeah, Vanessa brings up a great point. She brought it up earlier too, and I think that's what I give credit to the confidence I have in this space, is the spectrum of folks not feeling comfortable owning their money, to the spectrum of the largest trading teams of sovereign entities is so massive. And the numbers that we're dealing with on the sophisticated side of transactions of financial assets is so many more multiples larger than crypto itself. We have to always remember where we are in that spectrum of a small win for crypto is a triumph, but still by no means. I mean, as a 21-year-old analyst on a trading floor, I was able to handle a transaction that was $2 billion. We ran $2 billion through BinanceUS today. Will that be the all-time high of trading volume by a long shot for us? So that kind of being aware of the spectrum that actually still exists is super important for us not to get ahead of ourselves, and super important to know that we're building for this. And how do we accommodate ultimately the goal of handling all of all the transactions that go around the world?
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is generational habit building and financial education. Do you think that's kind of the same challenges that we face domestically, or also the same challenges that we kind of face with adoption internationally with different audiences there?
I think it's actually easier internationally. I think the US has a lot of restrictions in terms of regulation. The SEC has taken a very hard stance, so at least in the enforcement part of it, I think people are hesitant for that, and there's still a bad rap, on Bitcoin, on money laundering and things like that. So I think people are more open outside the US.
The comfort of the US was a innovation in itself. that they began to be the brokers and the money managers for people, making it a lot easier to do other things in life, which is fantastic. But the difficulties felt around the world by just sheer geography size. When you left your country, which oftentimes in some places, Hong Kong and Singapore, every time you leave your country, it's an international flight. When you do that, you are changing the currency and the denomination of what you store as value. And so countries outside of the US have always had to, well, not always, but have more recently had to denominate what they consider wealthy in a US dollar amount without having any say on who prints it and how it gets involved and what's kind of, why is that the determining factor of where their assets are valued in. But you also have the leapfrog that payments took internationally because of all those difficulties. So largely across Asia, they skipped the whole let's do credit cards and went straight to mobile payments because, well, imagine having credit card machines in every country that weren't the same because there isn't, a coordinated effort to get things like we have Square across the US where it's, proof of, not proof of stake, but point of sale was pretty much owned by a large group or standardized across the nation. So people just skipped that step and moved straight to mobile payments, and you've had such great adoption there. That also raises the question of like, well, if payments are so much easier because they've already adopted digital nature of using your phone, what are the other eases that digital assets provide to them? And I think that then comes down to the importance or the anti-inflationary aspects of a digital asset that would make you not be privy to the governmental controls of your own currency, given that they're such multiple idiosyncratic markets all over the place that are affected by so many other factors than just block size and mining rewards.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that discussion. It was great. I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I know Coley was talking about a little bit about diversity in crypto, the gender ratio there. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and we're talking about adoption and how our governance systems and how our financial systems, how we want to build them for global audiences, diverse audiences, and at she256. Part of our mission is that we believe that the people building these systems need to be diverse in order to build the systems that are representative of these global financial and governance systems. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Coinbase blog post, but before we got into that, as executives at your company, curious about how you foster a welcoming and open company community culture, maybe some of the things that you think are most relevant in bringing a diverse group of people into crypto.
So I can start. First of all, I have to say that the level, my personal experience is the level of diversity is extremely low, and it's quite shocking. And I think we both spent a lot of time in financial services. I feel that the tech and crypto is even less diverse than that industry. I think it's our responsibility to do something to bring in and welcome diverse candidates, and understand that there's opportunities, because there's huge opportunities here, and work with organizations like yours and universities to really get people in the pipeline. I think what I see is a lack of diversity in the developer world. It's easy to find on the business side more diverse candidates, but we really need to have more diverse candidates of people building and creating these new applications and new companies. And that's where the pipeline is becoming an issue.
Yeah, I have to give credit to my life, to the experiences I've had that were not the ones that I was born into. And so having the opportunity to try new things and immerse myself in different cultures that did not fit what I grew up with, which was Florida for folks' interests. Like I saw the world going to Disney World. Not that was kind of it. Like we all were able to swap and indulge in our differences and our cultures and celebrate it because it made it better. You were able to have, tempura at the same time you could have, a German pretzel at the same time you could have, a taco. And that to me was the celebration of our differences, not the division of them. And so I set out early on in college to pursue all the places that were different and were successful and learn from them. And I've done that with my career, and being in Hong Kong, understanding those markets, what makes them tick, how have they leapt in payments because of the conditions that they're facing and having to adopt in that. How have, I spent 6 months in Copenhagen in college, and that was remarkable because they were leading in the energy and kind of the liberalization of a lot of their social values as well. So you're kind of, how can this small place still have the happiest people? Well, what do they do? What are they great at? And so where we can bridge that and bring it together has always been the factor that makes for a happier life for me. So when I'm looking at today's America and seeing the bounty of diversity that is available, how can I serve them with a product that fits their needs? And I know their needs are not the same needs that I have. So the best way to do that is to bring a team together that's as diverse as America today, so that we represent and hear our users and have more, more journeys that are common with all 50 states and those that are coming into our country, because that's where we're headed. I hope so. I really hope so. If that's not where we're headed, then I'm going to give it one hell of a shot to fix it, and be super upset if that is not the right path. But give me that chance. So I've been able to source a team across America now that we've been in lockdown, which is an extremely great advantage, to not have to be hiring in just the silo of San Francisco, which you have to be fortunate enough to leave 49 states to get there. And then you have to have the fortune of being able to afford to live there and find a career that has allowed you to learn skills in order to qualify for those jobs in that area, which makes it certainly a hotbed of some of the best. But there's also passion that exists in Maine and Denver and you name it, any part of the US that someone has found crypto passion and done their own homework and dug into it and can be, providing value. They deserve a shot at building the best platform in America, and that's why we've had them on our team. And so we're a really, really wildly diverse team, because I enjoy and need and value so much of the differences that America needs to be heard on today. So and for everyone complaining about a pipeline issue, I kind of turn it around and say, just do the work, hire them. So I mean, and not them, hire the best, and the best happen to be folks that are qualifying for these positions. And I found 11 women to join my team, and we're a relatively small team, still around like 50 people, with 30 predominantly on our focus of the US operations. And 4 of our main 6 business units are run by women. It's not like I'm finding analysts or, not expert level positions. These are absolute experts in their field, the most technical on our team in crypto. So I really just turn it around on people to say, if you care about having those differences represented and heard, and your platform reaching an audience it's as broad as it can be, it'll be important to you to find that talent.
Let's chat about team culture a little bit. I know we're running a little bit short on time because I wanted to get to audience Q&A, but let's talk about team culture. Let's talk about that Coinbase blog post that was posted earlier last week. For those that don't know in the audience, I'm going to drop that link in the chat. But basically, the Coinbase blog post by Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, was a blog post where they talked about how Coinbase was a mission-focused, apolitical company, and that they would not be tolerating any sort of political discourse within company during company time. And there was quite a bit of controversy over this blog post. So I just wanted to ask Vanessa and Coley, as executives leading companies, running teams, what do we think? Do we agree with that? That we want companies to be solely focused on what the company does, or like, what do we think?
I can take a stab at it. I just think that it doesn't seem very relevant in the current, context of where we're heading and how companies are run and how you engage with employees, you engage, with people you work with. We work so hard and all the time. And if people want to discuss other things, that's kind of okay, as long as they're respectful of each other. In the last year, things got really heated. There were heated debates in all the companies I work for or been engaged with. There's a hard conversation around Black Lives Matters, around diversity, about what we're doing about it. And I think if we're not willing to embrace that diversity, that difficult conversation, it doesn't serve you as a leader. And having a top-down approach, just saying this is how it is, and if you're not happy about it, you can leave, is not, in my view, the most constructive. And I think, we're humans. Like, we interact with each other, we have opinions, and the workplace, it's not just a place where we take that behavior out, and it's perfectly fine. You just need a level of tolerance of diverse opinions and diverse, ways of being, right? And be respectful of each other.
Yeah, I think, Vanessa, you address it quite well, with it just being kind of an awkward way to talk about something that's so personal to your team. So an unusual way to kind of manifesto out and make it so public. But for us, our mission is our users, our people, and our people are what make our team great as well. And for the first time ever, you're seeing work be brought into the home, and employers are seeing your bedroom. You guys are in my kitchen right now. The employees are meeting people's children for the first time, seeing so much of our lives. There's such a blur now between what work and life is that we can't bear to say, work for us 20 hours a day and keep it all work related. It's life now. And I want people to bring their whole selves to work. I want people to have dogs in our meetings, because they give us the joy that makes us remember what we're building for, which are humans. It's fascinating in technology and technology companies that at this stage right now, there certainly are companies that are building technology for robots to communicate with other robots. So that's definitely a sector of the business. And I'm sure there's like an uproar of the autonomous driving group that's like, we don't build for people. But the essence of what we're building for is for individuals, it is for people. And so we need to know what it is that they are demanding right now in this market, what it is that's going to make their lives in the future easier. And we have to factor in everything, because that blurred line of bringing your corporate self to work is gone. And 2020 is not going to be a year where we just put an asterisk in the history book and say, like, everything was great on the path of humanity, asterisk, there was 2020, and then we continue to move on. No, the charts are going to change. Like, everything from here on is going to be different. And ignoring that or assuming it's just going to come back to normal when everything opens up again is something that I think is just a little bit nearsighted, and we need to think about how we can change the way that work operates, change the way that companies treat people, change the way that you interact with your money, and in a way that is more freeing and totally driven by humans themselves. So that's where we stand on it. But
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
If I had to, put on high heels and pantyhose and a blazer and then do a Zoom call every day, like, I'm sorry, but I would not be able to work as hard as I can right now.
For sure. Awesome. Thank you for that, for this discussion. But I also wanted to hop into the Q&A section. We've had people asking questions in that section. So I'm just going to go from top to bottom with the most voted questions there. And audience, feel free to drop questions in, vote on questions, and hopefully we'll get to them in the next 9 minutes. But yeah, so the first question that we have with most votes right now is, are Binance and ConsenSys willing to hire recent graduates from different majors who are interested in the space but don't have much experience?
I'll answer this one. For the first time ever, you get to spend 4 years of your college with this technology existing. So spend time learning about it, and you'll realize that you have experience in that time to get up the curve. I currently, admission, have only been working in digital assets for the last 3 years. So if you're a senior, you've already spent more time learning about crypto than I have, and I now run a company in the United States around crypto. So the learning curve is steep. If you're willing to, put the crampons on and climb up the curve, go for it. Absolutely. We hire someone that can fit the needs of our business. A lot of our needs can be absolutely given to people that have the experience. And the best part about crypto is you don't have to have certifications in order to get involved in it. You don't have to have different skill sets, but absolutely hone those skills if they excite you. I think about designers. I think about product design. Those types of insights you can learn at any level, any age, as well as being a great customer support, knowing the inside out of a platform, knowing how crypto works. We absolutely are excited, so excited for new students to come and join us. I think about the jobs where we do require skills and added help are often in those that have specialty skills, such as compliance, AML, BSA experience, but those are all super teachable. Like nothing yet so far in crypto cannot be taught because we've all taught ourselves in the last 10 years. Credit to some of the cryptographers who've been doing this for over 45 years, but there are elements to this industry that we can build quickly and build with a new generation.
Yeah, agree. Nothing to add.
And I'm hiring, so.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, so next question. At Coley, do you think US regulators will crush decentralized exchanges that are pretty much launched in the US, for example, Uniswap?
I've only launched a regulated exchange, marketplace. I don't even use the word exchange because it has so many other regulatory hangups on it, but a regulated marketplace in the US, and it's difficult, but I set out to do that because I thought that's where the future needed to be going through. So I can't necessarily speak on where or the risks that other teams were comfortable taking, but this was, if I was going to play in the United States, I wanted to be going by their rules and evolving those from the right side of things rather than possibly a higher risk side of items. But the question then, I guess, that asks is it truly decentralized if there's someone to point to? So that's just a question of how can we make sure that when we are offering something that's decentralized, it's truly decentralized, much like Bitcoin itself.
Absolutely. Okay, so another one of the questions was, so what are the challenges or advantages of being a woman in the blockchain space? I wanted to spin this question a little bit differently though. I feel like it's a bit of an over-asked question, and it is 2020. I feel like we're beyond the point.
Because I'm awesome.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask, like, maybe beyond maybe gender challenges, but like, what were the biggest challenges overall in your personal blockchain journey? Like, what did that look like for you on the learning curve and also just working in the industry now?
Yeah, I'd say my biggest fear was bringing my Wall Street expertise, which was also still a huge imposter complex. I spent 5 years at Morgan Stanley on 2 continents, trading 24/5. So I feel like it's kind of like dog years, a little like we think in crypto, because you're dedicated to it so much, but that's still only 5 years of experience. So many people would say that's nothing. I barely learned anything. And so how would I be able to bring those skills into tech or crypto? So there was a lot of that you don't belong here feelings. So I'd say that that's always the scenario of you don't belong here, but if you add value, learn quickly, and show up on time, you'll eventually be let in. So just be tenacious in that aspect is my best advice. It might frustrate people, but it's like if your intentions are you're not going to go anywhere and you're going to belong, those can manifest. And so I think that's just one of the challenges that, sure, I had, people be like, what's she doing here? Like, why are you still here? Why are you at these meetups? Why are you asking these questions? Why are you on Twitter? Why are you engaging with us? I'm learning, guys. So I was actively pursuing to be an involved person in this space. And I wanted to make sure that the definition of digital assets and the impact that they had on people included making my life easier. And in part, I hope that makes plenty of more people's lives easier. So that's really, I'd say the challenges are just people always thinking you're not what they expected.
Absolutely. Vanessa, I would love to hear about maybe some of the biggest challenges you had.
So maybe I go a little bit more with the flow. So, when I accepted the position at ConsenSys, I thought it was an exciting time, and nothing was defined yet. So everything was an open door, and so we just walked through the door. So it's hard. Oh, okay, sorry.
2 minutes. Uh-oh.
For keeping the time. I would say that it wasn't challenging to work in the space. I just felt really comfortable, even though I have a traditional background and it's very different from what I've experienced before. But I have to say, I only have good things to say about how I interacted with my colleagues and the entire ecosystem. I had huge opportunities to really understand it in depth, and I'm still grateful for that.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we have 2 more minutes left. Yeah, I was hoping Cameron would jump in here and talk about logistics.
No, we're good, actually. We're totally good on time. I just had to extend it. But
I
yes.
do that too on Zoom calls.
Yeah, I'm just like, I messed that up. Okay. But yeah, Kristie, are there any other questions that you'd like to ask?
I don't think so, but I wonder if Vanessa and Coley will be sticking around to kind of be helping some rooms. If they will be,
Absolutely.
For sure, yeah. So our audience is more than welcome to ask questions there.
There's an amazing question someone asked about electricity, and that's exactly what keeps me up at night. So I'm going to go nerd out in that chat room when we talk about electricity and how that having a dead battery on a phone makes crypto as useless as your phone sometimes. So I want to keep learning about that and how we can make sure that we're solving that issue too.
Amazing. Well, that being said, thank you everybody so much for joining. Before we wrap up, just want to give a little bit of some announcements. So one, the Blockchain Acceleration Foundation, BAF, we're accepting members, and it's completely free to become a member. Everyone can become a member. We have one application for everybody, and this includes if you're looking for a job in this space, we're connecting you to other companies. If you are an investor looking to invest in projects, we can connect you to startups. If you're a startup looking for investment, we connect you to investors. Essentially, what BAF is a trusted matchmaker that is just going to connect people. Eventually, we'd like to automate all of this and become the first tax-exempt and automated nonprofit organization. We have some time until we get there, but in the meantime, it'd be awesome for you to take our membership application. Just dropped it in the chat here. And if you're feeling generous, then we're going to drop our donations link. And again, BAF is a 501c3 nonprofit. This means that all your donations are tax deductible. And for those who don't know, in the world of crypto, if you donate crypto, you don't pay capital gains if you donate to a nonprofit. So if you've been holding crypto for a little while, or you have a lot of short-term capital gains to pay, this is a good opportunity for you to donate crypto to tangibly accelerate the industry. We are launching 2 classes this quarter, one at UC Santa Barbara, which is non-technical, and one at UC Davis, which is a blockchain development course. Both of these courses will be made available after the fact. That's one benefit of COVID, is that everything will be recorded and we will open source everything. We've even worked with the departments at both of these schools, the College of Engineering and the Technology Management Program, to make this a reality. And that was a lot of negotiation because curriculum is university's bread and butter. So we want people to attend. We have awesome people coming, and I will sort of follow up with that, more information about that when that time comes. But yeah, stick around for networking. What we do is just make sure to turn on your camera and mic. You can hop from room to room. If you enter a room and people are talking, don't come in and just barge in. Wait for you can barge in, but just wait for somebody to sort of ask you to introduce yourself, or wait for the right time to be introduced, because I think a lot of us are still getting used to the sort of, I don't know, the best practices of virtual networking. So that being said, I'm gonna hop off, turn on your mics and cameras, and we'll get going. Thank you so much to all the speakers, and we will see you in the networking.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. See you guys in the network.